There. Welcome, everybody. Today we're chatting with Beth Messersmith, sorry, Beth, who is an on-the-ground leader and organizer in North Carolina. This conversation is hosted by Moms Rising's Good Food Force, which is a community of parents, moms, dads, community members taking action to build healthier families, schools, and communities. And one of the big things we focus on in the Good Food Force is not only talking about food issues and food justice, but also on building the skills of our members to speak out about issues they care about. So talking about how to organize and excite people on the ground, pull off fun events, build leadership within your group are all really important topics for our members. And we couldn't have a better guest joining us to offer her reflections on those topics. Beth is a longtime on-the-ground organizer around voting rights in particular. She's currently based in North Carolina, has also worked in other states and at the national level. And she is the key leader of Moms Rising's presence in North Carolina, which numbers over 39,000 strong. So welcome, Beth.
Good to see you, Karen. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's great to have you. So we have a few questions for you today. The first is, what advice would you have for a mom who's fired up about a local issue, but doesn't really know how to get started in doing something on the ground?
Right. I mean, I think the first thing is start with who you know. When we got started in North Carolina, we started by reaching out to our own networks. We reached out to our friends. We started organizing little gatherings at our houses, in our backyards while the kids played, in our living rooms, to really start building, all organizing is about building real relationships. And so having those opportunities for people to get to know each other, to share the issues that light that fire in their belly, and then figure out together where they're going to go with that. So I would say, start with your friends. Everybody has, those group of folks that you see at the pickup line or that you play with on the playground. Invite them over, grab some wine maybe, and have that conversation.
That's great. And that's very encouraging because it feels very doable. It doesn't feel like you have to get out and recruit tens of thousands of people. And
it's really fun. And the thing is that we often think that our networks are the same, but they're not. The moms that I know may have some overlap with the moms someone else knows, but it's not that case. With our house parties, we started them like at my house and a couple of other moms' houses, and then their friends would go out and hold one. And so it kind of, it's sort of a Tupperware model, but it really actually does work.
Okay, that's great. And so if you get somebody out to one of these house parties, for example, how do you get them excited about your issue? Clearly if you've gotten to that point, you've been fired up, you have that proverbial bee in your bonnet, fire in your belly. How do you then get somebody else excited and on board with the cause?
Right. So Moms Rising has really great tools to help with that. When I first started doing these here in North Carolina, we had a video, the Motherhood Manifesto video, and we were showing those a lot. But we've got these great Moms Rising meetup toolkits that are going to be rolling out on lots of different issues that have articles or videos or just kind of talking points that'll get you started. And I think sometimes, you need to have a few of those factoids, but I think that people know these issues. People live them. They may not always make the policy connections directly, but they have experience with these issues. And so I think a lot of times it's having the materials ready ahead of time where you can be that connector between someone's lived experience and how that's actually a policy issue. And then you can use that as a chance to start brainstorming around, so what's going on in your community. I like to reach out to partners that are working on those issues on the ground beforehand. So for example, when we're working on good food issues, I reach out to the Fertile Ground Cooperative that's trying to deal with the food desert up the street. Or I reach out to the North Carolina Partnership for Children around early learning and find out what's on their agenda and see if there's something we can easily plug into as a next step or that we can partner on together, so that you have that, you have give people a chance to connect to the work, you connect it to the policy, and then you always have an action to tie them into next.
Yeah. Oh, okay, great. So I'm hearing using your own networks, using their networks in turn, being really real and authentic about the issue, because I think that's a great point, that you and the people you're speaking with have all experienced these issues. So making that very real, authentic tie to them is almost a natural thing to do. You don't really have to force it, but you can back it up with resources from groups like Moms Rising or other groups on the ground.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that it is important to have that next step ready, because people will be fired up. They will want to do something, and you don't want to lose that momentum. So maybe it's you set a date for another meetup. Maybe it's a couple of people volunteer to host and bring a few other people next time. Or maybe it's, a local partner already has something going on that you can meet up and help support.
I love it. And I think that's so true. Just as a mom myself, I have so much going on that knowing that what I'm involved in has impact and there's something concrete coming out of it is kind of a deal breaker for me, because I just don't really have the time. You know, there's so many issues I'm interested in or groups I'm interested in, and I need to feel like it's been worth it. And so even if it's a next time we're going to do this, or the next meeting we'll discuss that, or an actual action or event, that's what I hear you're saying, that, you know, for that reason is really important.
That's exactly right. Exactly right. I mean, I love Moms Rising always talks about, you know, no actions without urgency. And I think that's true because, like you said, people need to feel the impact of what they're doing.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, we have a question submitted from one of our Good Food Force members, which I'm going to read to you. She says, there are a lot of people who are all excited about something, but just don't want to do the work. So how can I find the doers within my group? Right now, I feel like I'm a one-woman show.
Right. That's hard. I mean, it's hard in every group, whether it's, you know, the work you're doing with Moms Rising, or it's the PTA, or being room mom, or whatever those things are. It's hard. We spend a lot of time in North Carolina talking about how Moms Rising is a no guilt organization. You know, there are so many things in motherhood that are about guilt and feeling guilty and never having enough. So I always tell moms, we're no guilt. We're grateful for whatever you can do when you can do it. And that we recognize that lives ebb and flow and that people come in and out of this work. And so interestingly, by telling people it's no guilt, people are more willing to step up because they're willing to do what they can do and don't have to feel bad about what they can't.
Yeah.
Which has helped us a lot. I think the other thing is that I think, like a lot of women, I have a hard time asking for help sometimes. And so really being like realizing that asking for help is empowering people. It is giving other people an opportunity to grow their skill sets. And so having very clear, specific asks. Hey, I need someone to come up, you know, look on Pinterest and find us a couple of crafts for this and be in charge of, you know, helping prep them. And I have this amazing person in North Carolina that I work with that I call her the crafty queen. She's so good at it. And so I think, you know, having very specific things you're asking people for, breaking them down into bite-sized pieces and being direct when you ask makes a big difference. And also not just saying that you're no guilt, but really being no guilt. You know, when somebody calls at the last minute and their kid's sick, that's life, you know? And then they're more willing to come back the next time because they feel good about the experience.
That's great. I love that saying, no guilt. That's very useful. That's a great suggestion. So tell us what 3 events or on-the-ground actions have been the most inspiring and successful for you throughout your career.
Well, I think that with Moms Rising, I found that there's no single silver bullet perfect answer. We've had some, I feel like the Moms Night Outs are really effective because they help you build these authentic relationships. We've had some great experiences. We throw an annual Martin Luther King birthday party here in Durham. And the first year I threw the birthday party, I actually threw it in my living room because I wanted a way to talk with my then like 3-year-old about like what Dr. King's birthday actually meant. And so the next year we had it at the mall and 250 people joined us. There were 2,000 folks there last year. It keeps doubling every single year. So it's very successful. I'm actually meeting with people tonight about planning it for next year. But it's a place people can plug in on a day that they're already off in a meaningful way with their children. And the parents get something out of it. The kids get something out of it. So that's been really successful. And in terms of the Good Food Force, we had an event this summer that I loved. We partnered with First African Baptist Church down in Goldsboro. And we were doing an event. They were having a summer festival with a community across the street. And moms and kids came over, and we had an Iron Chef competition. We got shish kebabs, and the kids built their own shish kebabs. We had resources for the parents. We had a local farmer who came out and taught the kids about growing their own food and helped them make little container gardens. And we even had a good food comedy show, which the kids loved because we came up with all these food-related jokes. And we had a microphone and walked around and let the kids take turns telling the jokes. And they loved getting to talking to the mic, and they loved kind of being the center of attention. And it was a positive, and we served lunch. serving food is always really important, no matter what event you're doing. And so I think that those were some of the best ones. But there's so many different things, it's hard to pick. And
those
festivals.
are great. Yeah. I'm taking notes. I'm getting lots of good ideas from you.
When you're getting started, festivals are a great way to meet new people. We've been doing, we've called this the fall of festivals. I think we've done 8 community festivals this fall. But it's a place to connect with people where they're already out there. Yeah.
It's funny, we go to a lot of fall festivals. Like, I totally hear you. It's just something to do with the kids on the weekend, a Saturday afternoon. Especially if you're kind of between seasons, you know, maybe if they're doing sports, they haven't really kicked up yet, or I totally hear you. As a consumer of festivals, I love that. That's exactly where I would run into a group like yours.
And we also spend a lot of time, I should have mentioned this earlier about recruiting people. Parent clubs, there's all sorts of parent clubs that we work closely with. They partner with us on the Martin Luther King Festival. We post in the closed Facebook groups and on their listservs, and it's a great way to, you know, occasionally we'll share a Moms Rising action, but sometimes it's just chiming in on a thread where a mom is venting about, you know, her kids are sick again and what is she going to do? Or I'm really frustrated about the school lunch at my kid's school. And so, you know, having the opportunity to chime in and connect to people and say, hey, can we grab coffee? Has been very effective. We also use parent media. There's a group called Carolina Parent. They have a magazine and a blog, and there's WRL's Go Ask Mom, and they let us blog for them occasionally. And those are great ways, and their community calendars are great ways to meet people too.
This is great. I'm taking lots of notes here. Okay, so final question. I feel like I could ask you questions all day long, but in the interest of time, final question. What's been your funniest or most unexpected moment doing this kind of work?
There have been lots of them because I do this work almost always with my children. They're almost always there with me. So I have 2 really quick ones. They're both at the General Assembly. So when my son was 2, the General Assembly in North Carolina has big fountains all throughout the building. And my son had his very favorite Hot Wheel. And he used one of the tables as a giant ramp, shot the Hot Wheel across the lobby where it landed with a big splash in the middle of one of the fountains. It would have been embarrassing enough, except that he then started screaming because it was his favorite Hot Wheel. And all of the lawmakers' offices are in this big square that looks out onto the fountain. So everyone started coming out because at that point, people weren't really used to having children at the General Assembly. They are now because we take ours all the time. But they weren't used to it. So everyone came out to see what was happening. And I had to roll my pants legs up and wade into the fountain. And that would have been awkward enough, except that many of those people knew me from work I had done before. And so, you know, here I am with my suit, wading in the fountains. And then the other one is we were doing a press conference in the legislative briefing room, and my son, who was about 3 at the time, and I were standing in the crowd, and a lawmaker was speaking, and he had his Woody doll from Toy Story there. And at a very inappropriate moment, all of a sudden Woody says, "There's a snake in my boot." And all the media cameras swing over to the kid with the Woody doll and the law. So they've been awkward, but they've been good.
Oh, it's so funny. And that stuff just always happens, right? Like it's par for the course, and really funny. And yeah, wow.
But lawmakers still remember it. They still remember it. They still say things to me, but it makes an impression that children should be able to be in the places that we make laws. They should be.
Right. And children are children, and they act how they act. And I love your attitude about that. I think that's great advice. Well, this has been incredibly helpful to me, and I'm sure to all of the Good Food Force members watching and anybody else who watches this videos as well. Again, one of the goals of the Good Food Force is to help moms and parents and families understand food issues and food justice issues in particular that affect their lives and their schools and communities, but also to help them build their confidence and their power and their understanding of how to speak out about issues they care about. So this kind of conversation we're hoping to do more of. And hopefully more with Beth as well, because you have so many tips. I feel like we could have a whole series just with Beth. But Beth, thank you so much for your time today. And if anybody is interested in checking out the Good Food Force, please check out Moms Rising's website. It's MomsRising.org. And just search Good Food Force in the search bar, and you'll find us an informational page, information on how to sign up. You can also find us on Facebook. Thank you so much. Have a great afternoon.
Call me.
I'm sorry?
If you're in North Carolina, check us out.
Yeah, check out Moms Rising in North Carolina too. Great resource. And Beth is a wonderful resource too. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Karen. Have a good one.
You too. Bye-bye.